I'm 47 now, and my wife, Rachel, is 45. We had what most people would call a happy marriage for 22 years. We're the proud parents of 3 kids. Our son Luke is 20, and our daughters, Sophie and Mia, are 18 and 16. But everything started unraveling after something big happened. It goes all the way back to September 2001. On that day, Rachel had made plans to meet a man she'd connected with online. They were supposed to meet at a nearby hotel. From the texts and pictures they'd exchanged for months, it was pretty clear their goal was to start an affair. At the time, we'd only been married for 2 years, and Luke wasn't even a year old yet. Looking back, it's almost surreal how different things were back then. What stopped her was something no one could have predicted: the 9/11 attacks. Her uncle worked on the 84th floor of the South Tower and died instantly when it collapsed. The entire country was mourning, and Rachel was devastated. I stood by her side through the grief, supporting her however I could. Overcome with guilt, she ended up confessing everything. She told me about the emotional relationship, how it never turned physical, and she even showed me proof. Before that, I'd had this subtle sense that something felt off, but I never would have guessed she was emotionally tied to another man. Her confession hit me like a truck. I thought I knew her. She came from a strict background where drinking, partying, and dating were off limits. She'd always said I was her first real relationship. But after that day, I started questioning everything. If it hadn't been for that tragedy, would she have gone through with it? Would I have ever known? I told her that if we were going to rebuild anything, she'd need to see a therapist. She said she would, but for a while, I didn't see much effort on her part. The betrayal left a scar. Eventually, though, she did start therapy and show genuine remorse. We worked on healing, but the truth is, once trust is broken, it's never quite the same. We moved forward. 19 years went by. We had 2 more children. Life settled into a new rhythm. But on October 14, 2019, that same gut feeling came creeping back. Anxiety. Doubt. That little voice inside warning that something wasn't right. It started on a Monday morning. Rachel and our 18-year-old, Sophie, got into a heated argument before school. I tried to break the tension by playing with the dog, just goofing around, and Sophie started laughing. But Rachel? Her reaction was cold, almost like the laughter upset her. She seemed distant. Disconnected. That was the first red flag. Then came the second. She turned off the location sharing feature on her phone. We'd always used it, mostly out of convenience. That sudden change? It didn't sit right with me. The trust we'd slowly rebuilt started showing cracks again. I didn't want to believe the worst, but I needed clarity. So I started digging, trying to figure out what was really going on. I looked for ways to check her phone, her computer, anything that might give me answers. It wasn't about control. It was about understanding what I was feeling, and why. That day, we had to take Mia, our youngest, to the post office to get her passport for a school trip. Rachel works at the same school, so she offered to take Mia there, and I met them at the post office. We both had to be present for the application. But even then, Rachel felt absent. Cold. She barely said a word. Sat there silently, glued to her phone. I could tell she was texting someone, and it wasn't about school or our daughter's trip. My gut was screaming. She used to leave her phone lying around at home. Now? She took it everywhere. She also recently bought an iPad for work, and I helped her set it up. That wasn't unusual. We talked about it for weeks beforehand. But now she carried it everywhere too, just like her phone. One afternoon, she left the iPad on the table and walked away for a moment. I grabbed it, hoping to check her messages, but it was locked. Password protected. That was strange. We never used passwords on our devices with each other. When I asked, she said it was to protect sensitive student data, which seemed reasonable, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Then came Friday. We had plans to meet at the bank to sign papers for a new house loan. Afterward, she mentioned she had a few errands to run. Curious, I checked our bank account online. One of those errands turned out to be a trip to an adult store. And that's when my suspicions hit a whole new level. I started quietly looking through Rachel's recent purchases. That's when I found the lingerie, beautiful, lacy, clearly new. And that hit me hard. For years now, our sex life had been stagnant, mostly because of her lack of interest. Discovering that lingerie felt like a punch to the gut. I brought it up that night. I told her I missed the intimacy, and that it had been bothering me for a while. I even talked to my doctor about it, trying to understand what might be going on. In the process, I ended up reading a bunch of articles online about low libido in women. It got me thinking, and honestly, it made me more confused than anything. So I started watching Rachel's behavior more closely, but tried to keep it low-key. Eventually, I figured out the passcode to her iPad. She was distracted, talking with Sophie, and I saw her enter it. With a mix of dread and determination, I opened it. There was a Facebook message from a man I didn't recognize asking her to send him a picture. They weren't listed as friends on the app, which threw me off. Maybe he was just some random creep, but the way she replied told me otherwise. She knew him. The messages turned intimate quickly. And then he told her she should leave our daughter and come be with him instead. I couldn't keep that to myself. That evening I confronted her. That was a mistake. She lied. Without skipping a beat. Said the lingerie was meant for me, and she'd been working up the courage to wear it for me. Said the Facebook guy was an old coworker from a summer job, and he just randomly messaged her out of the blue. Swore up and down that it was just texts, no physical contact, nothing serious. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in my gut just couldn't accept her story. So I laid it out clearly. It all had to stop. Right then. No more messages. No more secrets. She agreed. The next day, I asked again, had she ended things? She looked me in the eye and said yes. What she didn't know was that I had other ways of checking. That's how I found out she told him to unfriend her on Facebook. Not because she wanted to end it, but because I had demanded it. So she lied. Again. And now, 19 years after the first betrayal, I found myself right back in the same miserable place. My emotions were all over the place. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus on anything. I scheduled a few therapy sessions for myself later this week, and I've been hitting the gym more just to keep from falling apart. This whole thing, it hurts more than I can put into words. Since the day I discovered the truth, I've been reading Psalm 81 almost every night. At first, I handled everything surprisingly well, considering the circumstances. But today was brutal. I barely slept last night, and my mind has been in overdrive ever since. The one bright spot was Luke. He surprised Rachel and me with tickets to a show. He's working at a local theater now and managed to get us in to see Come From Away. It's a powerful show, based on what happened during the 9/11 attacks. And that date, September 11th, brings up everything from the past. The first betrayal. The first lie. All of it came flooding back. We went to the show anyway. We tried to act like everything was fine because Luke was excited, and we didn't want to let him down. He's in his early 20s now, and he's turned into such a thoughtful young man. But me? I sat through the play, feeling like I was drowning. I've started keeping a journal, writing down dates, times, and thoughts. Trying to process everything. I even made myself a kind of personal mantra: stay calm. Stay patient. Stay in control. I'm doing my best to live by it, even if I don't always succeed. Tonight, as we get ready to go shopping, I'm trying, really trying, to shift my mindset. To not let anger or heartbreak dictate my next move. My own investigation eventually led me to the truth. The latest man isn't some anonymous stranger from the internet. He's a 32-year-old PE teacher she met during a summer school program. Rachel's 47, and she's been acting like some kind of cougar. They don't even work at the same school, or in the same district. The summer program is designed to bring teachers and staff from different areas together. That's how they met. I knew he'd be involved in the program, but I never said a word. I kept that detail to myself. And as of right now, she has no idea that I know. I started watching their interactions more closely. Eventually, I came across a Facebook message Rachel had sent him, and what I read really caught my attention. She was clearly trying to keep the connection going, maybe even push it towards something deeper. But what surprised me most was his response. He brushed her off. That made me smile, I won't lie. It gave me a little hope that maybe, just maybe, he saw her more as a friend, and wasn't interested in anything romantic. Considering she's 47 and he's about 15 years younger, maybe that age gap actually meant something to him. I'd seen previous messages where she mentioned going camping overnight. He didn't reply to those either. Later, I found out she had told him about the trip, but it didn't seem like he followed up or cared much. That gave me another glimmer of hope, that maybe it wasn't what I feared. We'd had a few family conversations since then, but she never really seemed to see things from my perspective. I haven't made any final decisions yet, but I can feel myself getting close. This situation isn't something I can ignore forever. With big life changes ahead, I know how important it is to build a strong foundation before I act. So I've been building my own quiet network of information. Voice recorders, GPS tracking, device codes, you name it. Not because I enjoy any of this, but because I need concrete facts before I take any serious steps. At the same time, I've been reading up on divorce laws in my state. I'm not a lawyer, but I want to walk into this fully prepared. When the time comes, I'll sit down with a legal professional and figure out the right way forward. I've also leaned on friends who've been through divorce recently. Their insight has been invaluable. They've shared their experiences, mistakes, things to watch out for. I know it won't be easy, but I want to be ready. And yes, I've decided to do DNA tests for our 3 children. Not because I have any real doubt about them, but for my own peace of mind. No matter what those results say, my love for them won't change. So what am I really waiting for? I think it's a mix of gathering enough undeniable evidence, and finding the courage to accept what that evidence means. Deep down, I know the truth. Our relationship is probably too broken to fix. But facing that truth? That's still hard. More than anything, I worry about our kids. I hate the idea of dragging them through a divorce, even though they're older now. Their emotional stability still means everything to me. I don't want to be the reason they carry around scars they never asked for. So until things are completely clear, I find myself in this strange limbo. And yes, I've been listening to her conversations through a recorder. It's a painful kind of clarity, but I can't stop. It's how I found out she's been unfriending a bunch of people lately, probably trying to cover her tracks. I know spying isn't going to win me any moral high ground. But I also know she's been spiraling for a while. Rachel's been going through what you might call a midlife crisis. And losing her mother in November only made things worse. Then, 2 days after her mom passed, my father died. And within 3 weeks, we lost 2 more relatives. By the time Christmas rolled around, our family was drowning in grief. It was a brutal season, and I can't ignore the impact all that loss has had on her. Somewhere inside me, a voice said maybe I should try to separate her pain from this betrayal. Maybe the chaos in her mind right now is more about grief than anything else. That thought made me pause. If I can spare our kids any more heartbreak by waiting just a little longer, then I'll do that. Ending a 26-year marriage isn't a decision you rush. Especially when I've loved this woman with my whole heart for so many of those years. But I'm also not blind. I'm not pretending things are fine. This week, I'm planning to start meeting with divorce lawyers. Quietly. Carefully. I've also made a decision. I'll tell Rachel the truth, about the lawyer, about where I'm headed, but only after next Sunday. That's Mia's birthday, and I don't want to cast a shadow over her special day. I still don't know exactly what I'll say. But I'll find the words. By then, I hope I'll have the right lawyer, and be ready to take the next step. I keep hoping, deep down, that maybe Rachel will have a moment of clarity. Some flicker of reflection that'll shake her awake. But honestly, I've hit the point where I don't want this marriage anymore. The evidence of her affair is overwhelming. I can't ignore it. Back on February 11, 2022, I quietly placed a voice recorder in her car. I needed the truth, straight from the source. And in a strange way, listening to those recordings actually gave me more peace than pain. It helped me understand what happened after everything began to unravel. I've also been trying to brace myself mentally for whatever fallout is coming. The sleepless nights have been brutal, so I finally started taking sleep aids just to get a few hours of rest. And the constant nervous energy? I'm channeling that back into the gym. At least I can take care of myself while the rest of my world feels like it's crumbling. Since this whole thing started, my appetites vanished. But if I'm being honest, I gained a few pounds during my slump, so I figured I'd use this time to get back in shape. The brain fog, though, that's been the worst. I keep forgetting basic things. So I started writing everything down, making checklists, mentally walking through each day like a soldier on a mission. And then there are the night sweats, another surprise side effect. I've been looking for ways to deal with them. In the meantime, I just keep towels, t-shirts, and underwear stacked next to the bed like I'm prepping for battle. It sounds ridiculous, but when winter's biting cold hits in the middle of the night and I'm drenched in sweat, I need those backups. Oddly enough, after getting through that initial storm, I felt a sense of relief. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't pretending everything was fine. I didn't have to dance around topics or sugarcoat my suspicions. I could finally just stop acting. Rachel, on the other hand, had been playing the part. For months, she acted like things were okay. And that only made the eventual confrontation even more jarring. Her frustration spiked once she realized I wasn't clueless. One particular moment stands out. She got a package from her dad, a box of her late mother's belongings. She opened it with trembling hands, but I just watched. Cold. Numb. I didn't feel anything. Even when we argued afterward, I felt nothing but distance. After enough prodding, she finally asked, "What's wrong? Just tell me what's bothering you." I looked her in the eye and said his name. She didn't hesitate. She ran out of the house in a frenzy. And that was the moment I felt the weight lift. No more dread about her presence. No more pressure to perform. No more updates, explanations, or emotional gymnastics to keep her happy. Still, something didn't sit right. Her behavior changed overnight, too suddenly. She started being overly kind, almost artificially so. Things that used to irritate her just didn't anymore. At first, I chalked it up to her finally being happy. But my gut said otherwise. So I put the metaphorical black sunglasses on, slipped into the trench coat, and became a full-time marriage detective. I activated the GPS on her car and left the recorder running. And wouldn't you know it? I got a bite on the first try. The recording caught 2 phone calls. The first was her making plans to meet him, in a church parking lot of all places. They spent about 40 minutes together. I didn't even need to hear the conversation to know what was going on. Then, as she walked toward his car, she made another call. This time to her best friend, her confidant, the one who lives across the country. If I hadn't been convinced already, that second call sealed it. When I confronted Rachel later, she did what she always does, minimized it. Spun it. Denied or deflected. "It's my fault," she said. "I never got to live freely before marriage. Never went to college. Never had that wild phase." And somehow, I became the villain in her story. But the truth is, I told her once, and I'll say it again, if she wants out, I'll understand. She just has to say it. But she won't. She insists on staying. Which tells me this betrayal wasn't about running away, it was about control. About having both lives at once. Look, I've never claimed to be a perfect husband. I've made mistakes. But I wasn't married to some perfect angel either. Rachel's not flawless. And the version of her I thought I knew, that woman's been gone for a long time. I've reached out to a few divorced friends, women mostly, and asked for lawyer recommendations. I've made up my mind. This marriage is over. She's emotionally checked out, and I refuse to stick around waiting for the next knife in my back. I'm done with surprises. It's time to start over. I know there are still a lot of things I need to learn as I move through this process. Right now, I'm still caught in a storm of emotions. One night, overwhelmed by a wave of disappointment, I punched the wall. Not hard enough to break anything, just enough to feel something. I was lucky I didn't hurt myself or the wall. The house was empty, and in that echoing silence, I let it out. I screamed. Loud. Just a single curse word, raw and sharp. And thank God no one was around to hear it. Later that night, I broke down during a phone call with my best friend. I couldn't keep it together. The tears came, and for a few moments, I let myself slip into this naive little fantasy. I imagined some perfect reconciliation. A miracle. That Rachel and I would somehow find our way back to each other, and I'd put in a little extra effort to make her happy again. But deep down, I know that's just wishful thinking. A false hope. I've said it to my mom, to my closest friends, and to myself. Divorce is the only path forward. We've mostly been avoiding each other since all this started. And during those quiet moments, her absence stings. Everything about how we used to be is just gone. We don't text during the day anymore. No check-ins, no sharing little updates. No light-hearted messages between breaks. Even the simple affection, hugs, kisses, those are gone too. Now, we avoid each other in our own home. She sleeps on the couch. And I sleep in what used to be our bed. I miss the mornings. I used to wake her up with the gentlest touch. A soft whisper. Hey honey, it's time. That was my little ritual. It brought me joy. But now, that part of our life is just over. She hasn't moved out, and we haven't filed for legal separation. But I know where this is going. And I know what I need to do. It's not going to be easy. But I have to believe there's light waiting at the end of this long, dark tunnel. There's something else that's been bothering me too, Rachel's jealousy toward our kids. Especially when they get to travel or go on school trips with the music program. Neither of us got to do things like that growing up, and I genuinely love seeing our kids so happy. But Rachel seems bitter about it. Over the last 2 decades, I've poured my heart into a local band. It's been a big part of my life, something I'm proud of. We've performed at some great venues, and I've worked my ass off for every opportunity. Countless hours of rehearsal, planning, perfecting my timing. It wasn't just fun, it was a commitment. And sometimes, I played gigs that ran late. But no matter how tired I was, I still got up at 5 a.m. to put in a full day at work. I didn't slack off. I didn't disappear. I did it because the money helped us build the house Rachel wanted. Leaving the band wasn't an option, not when it made as much as her full-time job. But instead of appreciating the effort, she resented it. One day she said to me, "You leave me alone with the kids when you go out and play." As if I was off partying. As if it wasn't work. It's true, performing live is thrilling. But it also meant dealing with bar owners, managing schedules, staying sharp, and giving people a show they wouldn't forget. It wasn't easy. And yet she never saw that side. She only saw what she wanted to see. The bitter truth? My actual day job brought in 3 to 4 times what she earned. And I never threw that in her face. I just kept doing what I had to do to provide for our family. I thought I was giving her the life she wanted. The life she deserved. But instead of gratitude, I got contempt. I guess the old saying is true. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. I just wish I hadn't taken so long to see it. So here I am, faced with the inevitable. If we stay together any longer, all I'd be signing up for is more frustration and disappointment. I've made peace with that truth. I've gathered recommendations for several divorce lawyers and will start scheduling consultations soon. I don't see a way forward for our marriage. Not anymore. Divorce might not happen tomorrow, but it's clear there's no longer a foundation left to rebuild on. We're done. There's nothing left to salvage. What hurts the most is how different the public version of Rachel is from the reality I've been living. Outside our home, people think she's incredible, a warm, compassionate woman, a loving mom who's always helping others. And to be fair, she is all those things. But inside our home? Behind closed doors, she became someone else. She's fallen into what I've come to call the Palm syndrome. That's my not-so-subtle nickname for her coworker, Palm, the man she cheated with. And here's the kicker, he's married too. To another woman at their workplace. I haven't told Rachel's family yet. She doesn't have much family left, just her dad and a sister. I don't talk to them often, but when the time feels right, I'll let her father know what's been happening. As for Palm's wife, I tried to reach out. I sent her an email explaining everything. No response yet. If I don't hear back, I'll send another message in a couple days with more details. After that, I'll let it go. If she doesn't want to engage, I'll respect that. Tonight, I finally did it. I sat down with Rachel and told her I wanted a divorce. There were tears. A few hugs. A quiet acknowledgement that our bed life, moments, the little gestures, the shared smiles, the comfort, were gone for good. And for once, she understood the seriousness of the situation. We talked. Bittersweet and honest. We said the things people say when they're mourning a life they once had. And then I asked her, plain and direct, "Did you not consider this outcome when you made your choice?" She nodded. Said she had. But that didn't stop the tears. It's hard to see her hurt. No matter what happened, I loved this woman for most of my adult life. But love can't fix this. I know now that staying would only keep me trapped in a cycle I don't deserve. So I made the choice I never wanted to make. I'm letting go. Our band is on pause for now, but I've started putting feelers out, looking for a new group, maybe something with a brass-heavy classic rock vibe like Chicago. Music's always been my anchor. I know it'll get me through this. Rachel brought up counseling. Maybe reconciliation. But I shut that down immediately. At this point, the only counseling I'd recommend is for her own healing, not ours. The only regret I carry now is not ending this sooner. I haven't done anything wrong in recent years. If anything, I went above and beyond to be a good husband. I put Rachel at the center of my life. I prioritized her. I fought for us. But in the end, I found myself here, heartbroken, betrayed, exhausted. Some days I still find myself torn, between wanting to hold on, and knowing damn well I can't. That pain, that pull, it confirms something I already knew. I'm ready to move on. I tried again to contact Palm's wife. No reply. But this time, I gathered the strength to call her. And let me tell you, I've never felt worse. I know I wasn't the one who did anything wrong, but hearing her pain, listening to her voice break, it wrecked me. Breaking someone's heart, even with the truth, is a terrible thing. I promised her I'd be there, even if just by text or phone. I didn't know what else to offer. But the call helped. For both of us. We shared our stories. We unpacked the pain. And in the end, she thanked me. Said it meant everything to finally know the truth. And she said something I won't forget. He told her he was in an unhappy marriage. That Rachel didn't understand him. That he was lonely. Just another lie. It always starts with lies. I can't deny her role in all of this. It's entirely possible Rachel played her part by feeding into this man's fantasies, stroking his ego, pushing just enough to keep him interested. She might have manipulated him just as much as he manipulated her. But she still doesn't know I've pieced it all together. There was another man once, someone else who'd gotten caught up in infidelity. I knew him personally. I walked away from that friendship when I found out he'd torn 2 families apart, leaving 6 kids to make sense of their broken homes. I never thought I'd be facing the same kind of fallout. For a moment, I wondered if comparing salaries, seeing who provided more, who sacrificed more, might somehow clarify things. But that thought didn't stay long. It didn't matter. What matters is trust. And that's gone. These days, I avoid being alone with her unless it's about the kids or something around the house. The air in our home feels cold, distant. It's like she's finally starting to realize the damage she's done. Meanwhile, I'm taking steps to protect myself, getting legal advice, talking to friends I trust, making plans for what comes next. I don't think she fully understands how serious this is. She still seems to believe I'll either sweep this under the rug or throw myself into some desperate effort to fix what she broke. That's what I used to do. I let things slide. I clung to apologies that didn't mean anything, made peace with empty promises and half-hearted change. But not this time. This time I've changed. No more casual chats. No light banter in the kitchen or whispered jokes while we clean up after dinner. I've cut it all off. And now I can see she's struggling to accept that. She's realizing I'm not clinging to our broken routine anymore. But she still doesn't grasp that all of this, is on her. I may never get an answer to the biggest question of all, why? And that's the hardest part. But tonight was different. We went to an event at the school, a performance by our youngest daughter. She had a major role in the musical, and she absolutely owned that stage. Singing, dancing, soaking in every second under those lights. I was so proud I could barely breathe. Rachel sat beside my mom during the show. My mom knows everything now, though Rachel doesn't know that. I could only imagine how uncomfortable that must have been for my mother, sitting next to the woman who hurt her son, pretending everything was okay. When I finally told my mom the truth, she was heartbroken. Said she never saw it coming. That we always seemed happy. That she'd loved Rachel like a daughter. During the show, I got a text from someone else, another spouse who'd been through betrayal. She wanted to check on me, see how I was holding up. Her own husband had been caught cheating and had taken off, supposedly staying with a friend. But that friend wasn't home, and it raised some troubling questions. I reassured her that nothing shady was going on, at least on my end. Still, the pain doesn't stop. I'm haunted by memories, by questions, by what-ifs. I still catch myself daydreaming about reconciliation, about somehow piecing our family back together. But those moments are fleeting now. Like smoke. They disappear before they can settle. And that's how I know I'm healing. More and more, I see divorce not just as an option, but as the only option. It still hurts to say it out loud. It feels too final. But continuing to live like this? That's not love. That's survival. I think what unsettles me most is how Rachel, raised in a devout Christian home, someone who supposedly lived by those values, could do something like this. How does someone step so far outside the boundaries of their own beliefs? It shakes everything I thought I knew about her. Tonight felt like a turning point. After the musical, I watched her from a distance. She stood alone in the parking lot for a while, then walked to the store, then back again. I stayed in the shadows, just observing. I don't know what I was hoping to see. Maybe just some sign that she was struggling too. That maybe, finally, she understood what she'd done. Something in my gut told me she was with him. I couldn't shake the feeling, so I followed it. Drove out to see for myself. And sure enough, there it was. Her car, parked right next to his. That moment broke something in me. I'd been in contact with his wife for a few days now. She and I had exchanged several messages, mutual victims trying to make sense of this madness. When I told her what I saw, she didn't hesitate. Go up to them, she said. Introduce yourself. Take a picture. Get proof. So I did. But after that, I couldn't go home. Not with her there. I called Rachel and told her not to come back that night. I needed space. She called me, sobbing, apologizing, begging. I told her I was just coming by to pick up my things. And just like that, everything became clear. I thought I had already hit rock bottom. But life had one more punch to throw. Weeks earlier, I'd taken a DNA test for all 3 of our kids, not because I doubted them, but for peace of mind. The envelopes sat forgotten in our mailbox, unopened, collecting dust. I rarely checked the mail, and it slipped my mind completely. But when I finally opened it, my whole world stopped. My oldest son, the boy I'd raised, loved, supported, wasn't mine. The news hit like a freight train. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I realized Rachel had been unfaithful from the very beginning, back when our son was just a baby. Back when I thought we were building something sacred. That betrayal was worse than anything I'd uncovered in recent months. I knew I had to be honest with him. So last night I sat him down. Told him everything. There were tears. Tight hugs. A kind of heartbreak I can't put into words. But through it all, he never pulled away from me. And I never stopped reminding him, I'm still your dad. That doesn't change. He's a young man now, in his 20s, and he's grown into someone any father would be proud of. He's not ready to confront his mother. I get that. Some wounds take time. I called Rachel. Told her what I'd learned. She broke down, as expected, and asked to come home. I told her no. Despite everything, I reminded myself, he's my son. Our bond isn't written in DNA. It's written in years of memories, lessons, and love. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something close to peace. No more spying. No more snooping. No more walking on eggshells in my own home. The lies were over. The weight had been lifted. The kids and I began a slow, difficult journey toward healing. There were still heavy emotions, sure. Anger, sadness, confusion. But there was also calm. We had finally escaped the chaos. And then, tragedy struck. We got the call that Rachel had died in a car accident. Brake failure, they said. Just like that, the woman I once loved, the mother of my children, was gone. At first, it seemed like a horrible accident. But then the truth came out. Security footage revealed that her lover's wife, furious, betrayed, had snuck into the garage and tampered with the brakes. She'd found out about the affair and snapped. When Rachel and the man were at his house with a friend, the wife struck. She couldn't forgive. Couldn't move on. And her vengeance ended Rachel's life. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Now my children and I are grieving not just betrayal, but loss. Despite everything, the pain of losing her is real. The anger is there, sure, but so is sorrow. No one wanted this. No one deserved it. Life doesn't always give us neat endings. Sometimes it gives us scars and silence. But we move forward. We hold each other close. And we learn.